Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
Is seat taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Ryan, I like a plan, right?
Yeah.
So when we commit to what our next week episode's going to be, I feel that is a sacred, holy bond that I hate to admit this week we are breaking.
Well, every so often something happens that has to be talked about.
I mean, we are more than anything newsmen. We are journalists, right at the heart of the matter. And unfortunately, we felt because of the the fast-moving crisis of coronavirus and its vast impact on tourism, we had to delay Puerto Vallarta till next week.
And Puerto Vallarta, it will be there. It'll be sunny. It'll be beautiful next week, just like it is this week. Well, today, Kiernan, we check in with our friend Hannah Sampson, over at the Washington Post.
Sure, I think our first return guest.
Yeah, she is back. We a few months ago we talked a bit about over-tourism, and today we're talking about how the coronavirus is affecting tourism around the world. And it's, folks, so we're recording this on Friday. It comes out on Tuesday. So by now, things have probably gotten progressively worse.
I mean, Trump has probably said at this point that it's cured, that it's gone.
It's gone. It's over. Yeah.
And particularly you're diving into how it's affecting the travel industry, right?
Yeah, we talk about how it's affecting the travel industry, how it's affecting cruise ships, how it's affecting airlines. And then she gives some sort of practical advice about how folks who have travel plans can deal with this coronavirus, what they should do.
I mean, the reporting out there has been super interesting to follow. I saw the New York Times was reporting on an industry group predicting that the airline industries could be hit lost revenue of $63 billion all the way to $113 billion.
That is a lot of money.
It's a fraction of the ad revenue from this podcast, of course, but
did you see that one airline executive referred to it as a 9/11?
Oh, no, I did not see that. Oh, boy. That seems like not the best comparison.
Yeah, but that is the level of that is sort of the level of decline the airline industry is seeing in domestic travel.
Well, and I also saw a great article on Slate, and of course we'll link to all these in the show notes. And it was by a woman named Erica Wilkinson, and she's a travel agent. And the title of the piece is "I'm a luxury travel agent. We're screwed." Now, I think you and I, before the coronavirus, would have said travel agents are screwed just based on the fact that we can all directly book flights and hotels today. But
right.
She wrote the following that I found really fascinating. Quote, "Right now, I should be at the very apex of my busiest season. I should be answering hundreds of inquiries each day, booking dozens of flights. Today, I booked 6. The finer details of, say, a romp in the Maldives should be top of my mind. Instead, it's the coronavirus." So she's a luxury travel consultant. I mean, boy, hundreds of inquiries a day. Brian, maybe this might be a new expansion of the Out of Office brand.
People have been asking how they can take vacations with us for years now. So,
but she's just saying that phone is not ringing because people are afraid to leave their homes. Now, I'm curious, Ryan, have you made any preparations?
Preparations? No, I haven't.
So you didn't stock up on a bunch of natural wines just to have in the house in case you can't get out?
I think no. I live very close to a natural wine store, so that's never going to be a problem.
Do you have a direct tunnel directly from your house into the back room of the natural wine store so you don't have to go out into public?
I mean, we should probably have one installed, but they also deliver. So I don't know if in a quarantine situation, is that a real possibility?
I think as long as the delivery person wears a mask, you're fine. Maybe some rubber gloves.
Yeah. And, did you see that Tito's, the vodka brand, certainly not a natural vodka, had to remind people online that Tito's is not an effective virus killer.
Yes.
Yeah. So
that they are in fact meant to be drunk, not to clean wounds.
Right. This isn't the Civil War where you pour your vodka on no.
Given that we are, given this reporting, given the sort of varying stories that we get from the news and from politicians, sometimes it can just feel a little chaotic. So I'm super interested to hear what Hannah Sampson has to say about how coronavirus is affecting world travel.
Yeah, I think it's probably time to take off.
Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
Hannah, thank you so much for joining us again here on Out of Office.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
And I wish we could be, talking about something a little happier than we're talking about today. But everyone is talking about the coronavirus and how it is affecting, pretty much every aspect of life around the world. And one of those things is travel. So what are you hearing? What are you sort of seeing at the, when you're writing about the coronavirus and travel? What are some of the big effects that you're seeing so far?
Man, it's hard actually to look at travel right now and not see effects. Just every time you check your email, there's a new airline announcing big cuts to capacity and things like hiring freezes or temporary furloughs or something. So definitely giant hit to aviation. Far fewer flights. I think it really seems like airlines all over the world are suffering. Cruise lines are talking about multi-million dollars worth of hits, and that was just after the Diamond Princess in Japan. That was before we even got to cases that were on a U.S. cruise ship or a U.S.-based cruise ship. I'm hearing a lot that from travel agents that people are canceling or postponing imminent travel to Europe, and either like rebooking to the Caribbean, to all-inclusive resorts a little closer to home, or they're just kind of taking a wait-and-see approach for summer travel. But in the near term, kind of everywhere you look, travelers are really kind of a little spooked right now, and it's being felt kind of in every facet of the travel industry.
And I was in an airport just yesterday. I landed flying home from Mexico City, and it was it wasn't like ghostly empty, but it did feel very sort of unusual. There was a sort of tenseness about this that I haven't felt in a really long time in an airport.
Interesting. I talked to people. Somebody who I work with just came back from a trip in the Caribbean, and she said, her flight was full. Nobody was really freaking out. I talked to somebody else who was just came back from Puerto Rico, and they also said people were acting pretty normally. But I do think that those and Mexico City are places that have not had a big effect yet. So I haven't flown to Europe recently or to Asia, but I imagine probably the atmosphere is a little bit different when you're going to and coming from places that are having like much broader spread.
What do the airlines and cruise ships do if you're a consumer and you don't want to go on a trip anymore? Typically that you would be out of luck, right? You wouldn't be able to get a refund, most likely. So, but in the case of this sort of crisis, they're making exceptions. What's happening?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing, especially with airlines, most of them, I'm not going to say every single one, but the vast majority and all the big ones here in the U.S. have issued some kind of like book with peace of mind policy. So if you're booking a trip between like now and the end of the month, through some of them have even extended this to trips through like the end of the year and maybe even into early 2021. I think I just saw that. But basically they're saying they're going to waive change fees. So if you are like nervous about flying this summer, but you still want to nail down a trip without too much commitment, you can do that. And if you have to cancel, or if you're just like, if you feel even more nervous in a couple of months, they're going to not charge you either to change that fee, to change that flight, or in some cases, I think they'll just give you a credit for the amount that you paid and you can apply it at a later time. But I mean, that is not the kind of blanket policy you ever see. Usually it's like, if you're flying to this place where there's a hurricane at this specific date, you can change your flight and we won't charge you. But all other times they're like, no, you're going to pay out the nose if you want to make a change. So I think that's just really reflective of the fact that they're feeling such a hit in demand, and they're trying to reassure the public to please keep planning your trips, and we'll work with you as much as we can.
Is there a possibility that actual cruise ships will just sort of cancel some of their runs? Because even in the best of scenarios, cruise ships are difficult when they're dealing with food safety and things like that. Now that we've got this coronavirus fear, it seems like the liability for them would be pretty high if they. Do you know what I'm asking?
Yeah. So I mean, we've actually, I would say we have seen examples of this start to play out in Asia. So, we could probably, if as things progress, we could probably apply what they've been doing in Asia to other parts of the world. But several cruise lines have canceled their Asia itineraries for the season. One of them, Royal Caribbean, said that they were going to go instead to Australia and also to California. And they were going to sail free cruises on these specific ships for first responders to the Australia wildfires and for California wildfires. So that's one thing. They're just plucking the ship out of what they were considering the danger zone and moving it elsewhere. And then you have Carnival, who has had one of its Carnival Corporation, which had one of its Holland America ships denied from a bunch of ports in Asia. And then the Diamond Princess, of course, which was quarantined for a while. And they're pulling Diamond Princess out of service for a bit. It's going to get a thorough cleaning, bow to stern, and then it's going to sit in a dry dock for a while. So nobody's going to be on that ship for a good long time. Holland America brought Westerdam from Asia. I believe they're bringing it to Hawaii and then Alaska. So they've just kind of repositioned away from the area where they couldn't go anymore. So those ships at some point are empty. And that's not something that cruise lines like to do ever, unless it's sitting in a shipyard getting fixed up. So yeah, I could see if they run into more problems elsewhere that they would need to do that some more, even if just to reassure people that whatever the quarantine period is, the ship was empty and you can feel confident that it'll come back completely, fresh and clean.
Yeah. I just feel like nobody wants to be the first passenger on a ship that's just out of quarantine, No, it's not an attractive marketing slogan.
Diamond Princess was supposed to return. They've been saying it was going to return, I believe, mid-April in Japan. And, we'll see. We'll see if people want to go back on. Certainly enough people, about 2,400 passengers got on this other princess ship, Grand Princess, that was sailing from San Francisco for a couple of cruises in February. It wasn't completely full, but it was nearly full. And now there's, as of today, as of this morning, they're sitting off the coast waiting to see if anybody currently on the ship is sick. And then I guess we'll just figure out what to do from there.
Gosh, the irony of all this is that the first time you and I spoke, we were talking about over tourism, and specifically, we talked about Venice and these large cruise ships that were docking in Venice, and I've been looking. Venice is completely empty right now. It seems like an incredible time to go to Venice.
Yeah, we really did not see this coming, did we?
No, we didn't.
Not an over-tourism solution anyone wanted.
Yeah, well, are there any sort of practical advice that you have for travelers right now? If you were, what do you think people should be aware of if they have trips coming up in the next few months?
Yeah, these are questions we're getting all the time, and these are questions we're asking all the time. The direction that we've been getting so far from, public health experts is to pay attention to the CDC recommendations and the State Department advisories. So the CDC will say, give levels to different places, levels of caution. And if there's a place that's a level 3, which is their highest level, then, probably that's a place that people in high risk categories want to avoid. And they've given Italy that level. I believe South Korea and China also have it too. And I think Japan right now is a level 2, which isn't quite the top, but it's still elevated. So really paying attention to that is important, considering whether you're in that group that's in higher risk. So older adults have been hit much harder by this than people who are younger. And that's something that the doctors say to pay attention to. If you think that you are more susceptible, probably don't travel around right now. And if people who have underlying health conditions should also take the same consideration. And then when people do go, I did a story where I talked to kind of like risk management folks and public health people. And they were just like, if you're traveling somewhere, prepare that even if there's no spread of the coronavirus now, it absolutely will probably happen eventually. Could happen while you're there. And be prepared in case you're caught in some kind of quarantine or in case travel restrictions pop up while you're there. So people were saying things like, get your life insurance in order at home.
God.
Make sure you have a trusted friend who has your itinerary. Bring 30 days worth of medications and your original prescriptions. I mean, scary stuff that probably will not apply to the vast majority of people who are traveling.
Right.
But for those who want to have like the biggest abundance of caution, there are a lot of like preparations that they can do to kind of go with a little bit less risk or a little more preparation. Have somebody available to like feed your plants or your dogs if you're going to be gone longer, that kind of stuff.
Well, thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us again. And folks can follow along on your reporting at the Washington Post. We'll link out to it where you are going to be, I think, keeping travelers aware of what's going on about coronavirus for probably a depressingly long time ahead.
It's my new job now. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all on the corona beat now.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
And now it's time for the last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
All right, Ryan, great interview. Thank you very much to Hannah Sampson. I know it. I found it very clarifying to get some real facts from a reliable source. And, that's what Out of Office is all about. But let's put the facts aside because we are here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's your favorite segment, Ryan. It's my favorite segment. It's popularly known as the people segment, which is more and more relevant now that we see Bernie just surging in the polls.
Oh, God.
And here in the people segment, you and I like to each take a moment to share one thing that we've experienced. Maybe we've done it. Maybe it's something we cooked or we bought or we read. Anything that fed the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I have to ask you, as I ask you every week, as I hope to ask you all weeks hence.
Oh, wow.
Do you have a last stop?
I do have a last stop, Kieran.
Fantastic.
I am a huge fan of WNYC's podcast, Dolly, Parton's America.
Oh, I've heard of this. This is the one. It's hosted by the Radiolab guy, Jad Abumrad, right?
Yes,
the
yes.
Not Robert Krulwich guy.
Yeah, Robert Krulwich just retired, by the way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Breaking my heart. Anyway.
Absolutely.
He produced this. It's a 9-part podcast series called Dolly Parton's America, which is about Dolly's life. And it's about how Dolly fits as this sort of unique character in the American cultural framework that unites the left and the right. She can sell out a concert in Mississippi and sell out one in Brooklyn. Everybody loves Dolly. And she's got a unique brand of politics or an apolitical politics, one might say.
And do you get some of her? So it sounds like you get a bit of biography. Do you get a decent amount of her music?
You get a ton of music. Yeah, in fact, you start listening to a lot more Dolly when you've listened to the podcast. So that being said, this podcast inspired me and a handful of friends. We are going out to Dollywood. We're heading out to Pigeon Forge in April. We're gonna experience Dollywood.
What state is it in?
It's in Tennessee.
In Tennessee, and it's what, where she grew up or where she lives?
There's a replica of her house, so it might count as an historic home. Her Tennessee mountain home, and it's gonna be really fun. It is. They talk about Dollywood a lot in the podcast and how it's like incredibly diverse. Like there are families, there are gay couples. It's a Southern Disneyland in a way. So I'm excited.
Wait, Disneyland's in the South.
Is it? Oh, Florida doesn't
Disney
count.
World is in the South. Disney World is in the South.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah. I mean, like Southern flavored. Not like nothing Southern about Disney.
Sure. Now, Ryan, forgive me for being a little ignorant on this, but is Dollywood a theme park? Like, are there like rides?
Yeah, there are. Yeah, there are.
And are they inspired by her music?
I don't know that they're inspired. I think there's probably some inspiration from her music, but mostly it is just sort of a Southern style kind of country theme park where there's some dollies. And
there's like days worth of stuff to do?
I don't know if we're going for a day.
A day. All right.
And then we're probably going to hit up a national park in the vicinity.
Which one?
I don't know. I haven't done that research yet. I got a couple weeks here.
All right. Okay. Off air, I'm going to give you some recommendations because while I don't know much about Dollywood, I do know a lot about national parks.
One last time, the name of the podcast is Dolly Parton's America, and Dollywood is the name of the theme park in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
How long is an episode of this?
They're like an hour.
All right. Okay. So you got 9 hours of entertainment. Yeah. That's a hell of a last stop.
It's a hell of a last stop. What's your last stop, Kieran?
Oh, mine is, it's not 9 hours worth of entertainment. I would say it's maybe about 15 seconds worth of entertainment. This is a travel-inspired New Yorker cartoon that I caught in the past week's print issue. And do you know, Catherine and I get 2 print issues of the New Yorker because we're that kind of couple.
I didn't. That is ridiculous.
Why? We want to support good journalism, and when neither of us want to wait to dig in.
Well, I guess it just seems a little wasteful, frankly. I mean, can't you one of you read the N+1 while the other's reading the New Yorker? That's what we do in my house.
Is it wasteful to want to support David Remnick and make sure that he has a comfortable living? I don't think so. I think that I would call that patriotic.
Yeah, I think David Remnick's going to be just fine if you only got one New Yorker.
So it's a cartoon by one of the regular cartoonists named Joe Dator, Dator, and he also put it out on his Twitter feed. Very funny. It's the TSA booth that you get at every airport. And it's a possum standing on a carry-on. And the caption from the TSA agent is, "Hold on, your boarding pass says possum, but your passport says opossum." Thought that was very funny. Here's why I thought it was funny. Because one, I think the fact that possum and opossum both exist is just a silly little quirk of language. Also, I encounter this exact fear every time I go up to a TSA agent because on my passport and my license, my middle name just says P. It doesn't say Patrick, which is my full middle name.
I thought you had to have your full name on a passport.
Let me tell you, I don't know how or when this happened. Maybe it was like when I got my first passport, but I'm in the system as Kiernan P. Schmidt. And
you are so on brand, just everywhere you go.
It's true. Kiernan P. Schmidt, KPS. And I once asked an agent, I said, my full name is Patrick. It's not just P. Like, is this going to be a problem in my life? And I was told, as far as the U.S. government is concerned, your middle name is P. And so when I'm booking tickets, I always have to remember, don't put your full middle name, just put P, because I'm always afraid I'm going to get up there and the TSA agent's going to say, "Hold on, your boarding pass says Patrick, but your passport says P," much like this possum in this Joe Dator cartoon. So, it not only made me laugh, it made me think.
Well,
pretty good. And I will link to it in the show notes. So listen, New Yorker, more travel-inspired cartoons would be vastly welcome. Now, Ryan, I want to ask you, what are we going to talk about delayed from this week? What are we going to talk about next week?
Next week, we're going to talk about Puerto Vallarta, and we're going to talk to my good friend Don Pickens, who is the owner of Casa Cupola, which is a boutique hotel in the town. And we're going to talk a bit about the history of Puerto Vallarta, how it became a travel destination and what to do there now, besides just get some fantastic sun and chill on the beach, which you can definitely do there.
Fantastic.
Well, until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kieran Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
Is he taken?
So you have to, when you wash your hands, you're supposed to sing happy birthday twice.
All right. Well, or you could just listen to this entire podcast every time that you wash your hands. This is another way to be sure you're clean.
You'd have some really, really dry hands after that.